Oh, Wilma.
All right. All right. All right. This is awesome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome.
Hey, Wilma.
Hi, how are you?
Great. I love your hair.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Hi,
Okay,
Wilma. Hey, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Hello, hello.
How are y'all?
I'm doing great.
Y'all excited?
I'm excited.
All right.
Thanks
All
for
right.
joining.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you everybody for being here. And I'm excited for a great presentation tonight from Lani. And so I'm going to just get us kicked off if that's good with you guys. We can get underway. I know she's got a lot of great things that she wants to share with you. Everybody's good? Everybody's comfortable? Got water?
yeah.
Hydrate? Ready to get this going? Let's go.
Awesome.
All right. Let me just give you a quick little brief background on Lani, and then we'll just get going. So Lani is a certified life coach and speaker, and she is the founder of Wave of Women, which is an organization that focuses on empowering the next generation of dentists in their professional and private success. Her primary focus is working with clients to identify their own unique identity and how to show up in the world authentically while on a path of self-actualization. Lani is known for her thoughtful leadership, unique coaching, and actionable programs. Having a varied background of working in nonprofits and startups, and we were talking about that beforehand, and she's had quite an amazing span of her career in healthcare as well as the corporate world. Lani truly understands the power of building a culture and effective leadership. So you guys are in for a treat. Lani is a proud founding coach with the IADLC, which you guys are on here with tonight, whose mission is to optimize happiness and mental wealth or wellness for dental professionals. She's honored to be here, and this is her presentation today, Becoming Confident by Developing Your Leadership Presence. So welcome, everybody. And Lani, go ahead and take it away. We're excited. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you introduce yourself though, Jeff? I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me do that.
Let's hear a little bit about you too, please.
Let me let Alex in too.
Okay.
Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Dr. Jeff Buski. I've been practicing in dentistry now for 28 years. I was just sharing with Lani. I was like, I can't believe it's been that much time. And I also coach men inside of dentistry, just with our unique scenarios and issues that come up for us. And so I'm excited. I'm also a founding member with the IADLC as well. And so I'm excited for Lani's presentation tonight. So thank you guys for being here.
Yeah,
Really
thank you
excited for
so
you guys.
much.
Thanks.
Really excited to be here. So I'm curious, when I create programs, especially about leadership, and there's so much leadership, actually books and programs and coaching and everything around it. But I'm just curious. I'm going to ask a question right now. Is there something that piqued your interest because of the title I mean, what is it that you're interested in learning about leadership today? Does anybody want to answer that?
You guys can unmute yourself down there in the lower left-hand side.
I'll add something. I think confidence is so important because I talk, and I'm sure you guys do too. I talk to so many dentists specifically who we have the most impressive, amazing, difficult career that it takes to get into and be successful in. And I've never seen such a career make more people feel unconfident about themselves. It's shocking to me. Like, we should all think we're the biggest badasses because of the work we do. But instead, something happens that sort of like beats us down and we don't see that. So the word confident, it was really a big kind of big lights and flag for me. Not a red flag, a green flag. So yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I like to say, I appreciate that. I want to say that leadership is so important, but of course, Jeff, this about self-leadership is really important, and it does start with self, but then we take that knowing ourselves and then we can create leadership for others in all capacities. So leadership definitely starts with us. And when you get to really know yourself, this is really key. And so we're going to do a deep dive into becoming confident as a leader. So I'm hoping that you're going to learn something that really important that you could take away tonight. And that's just going to like boost your confidence level and make you feel confident in actually who you are. Okay. So in our short time together, what we're going to be going over is self-identity and how you learn about how to know about yourself more and then how to talk about yourself. That's actually really important. And then we talk about what leadership presence is. What is exactly leadership presence? Okay, not just style leadership, but what is leadership presence? And then once you get to know what leadership presence is, how do you use your leadership presence to build a culture that encourages people to be happy, encourages your team to want to stay? And I know in dentistry, it's really important. Like it has to be more than just about how much money you were making in the hours that you're working, right? So let's go here. Self-identity, here's our tenets we're going to be talking about today. Self-identity, do I describe who I am? Now it's interesting, like I've worked with a lot of clients, and when I ask them to describe who they are, what I hear things is like, why they decided to go into dentistry, where they went to school. They talk about their hobbies, they talk about their families, they talk about where they live, maybe where they travel. But I don't know how much time we have actually put into actually knowing who we are. If you think about what I just mentioned, those pieces, if that's what you say who you are, do you think it's enough to build a culture on? Is it enough for you to feel confident and in creating a brand in the community? Does it really help you? Do you feel like maybe it's not enough? So we're going to go a little bit deeper into how you can figure out more who you are. Okay. So let me see, I am actually going to send you a copy of these core values. And I know that, a lot of you have done some core values work. But core values, these are, when you look at these words on here, and feel free if you want to take a picture of it. I don't know if you can we see the whole screen or are we in front of it, Jeff?
You can see everything all the way from
Okay.
kind and generous all the way down to ambitious, modest, and
Okay,
reliable.
awesome.
Yep, so everything's
So
there.
feel free if you want to take a picture of that. I will be sending you guys a handout on this too, so you can have it for later. But look at some of these words. Interesting, right? They're maybe not just the normal core values you think about, but these are more like characteristics too. Think about what resonates with you. Okay. So understanding who you are and being able to give it words is really important, because maybe you haven't figured out how to, if you haven't taken the time to do that. I love things like articulate. Do we know that we're an articulate person? Do we know that we're easygoing? Do we talk about being upbeat, compassionate, insightful, witty, cheerful? I mean, having this information to look at and then decide which ones we are is really important, because then we get to own it and we get to think about who we are as we're building something out, right? This is also important work for your team to look at too, which is why I'm going to be sending you a handout, because you can take it, you can do an exercise with your team over lunch one day, have them go over and circle the things that resonate with them, and then see where you guys connect, what your values are and what your team's values are, and where you guys connect. Then you start thinking, oh, this is where we're in sync. We agree on this. Now you start building things like the thought of belonging and feeling like you know each other, starting to get to know each other on a personal level. Okay.
Lani, Laura asked a question inside of the chat. Is there a reason that you grouped the certain qualities together?
No,
Okay.
I just put it. Thank you. It's a great question, but no, it's not.
Okay, great.
There's no reason. Here are some, if you want to take a picture of this screen too, these are some questions that I think it's very useful to ask yourself. What are 3 of my most important values? Now, if looking at that whole sheet, you're thinking, well, there's a lot of values in here, so you're circling them, but then you narrow them down. Let's go to the top 3. What are my most important values? Where did you think I got those values? So your values are not just like, oh, this looks like a good word, I want to be more of this. This is more like your lens on the world. When you see a conflict, you have a judgment on it based on what you value. Okay. So it's kind of like putting on glasses. What 3 words describe me best? Okay. What do I want my patients to know and trust about me? So some of this is not just values, but values get enrolled in this. This is questions that you could ask of yourself to get to know yourself better. So it's really important to think about it in this way. We all know what the characteristics are of like a good professional, high-level healthcare provider, right? But do we just want to just embody those, or do we want to bring our whole self into work too? What do we really know about ourselves? So what do we decide to bring into the work? And what do we know is a challenging spot, and what do we work on? So the next question, am I typically early or on time? So in my coaching years, I would say there's so many of my clients that have had trouble actually showing up on time. I think it's pretty common. It's good to know that this about yourself instead of just ignoring it, right? So, and you're not going to be the only one in your practice. So either you own it and your team knows it and they work around it, or you work on that and become punctual. But the awareness piece is really important. I like the next question. What do I avoid in my life? I can't read this back here because of this. In my life, conflict, decisions, finances. What do I like to avoid? We all have those. Do I struggle with personal boundaries? Does that mean my people pleaser? What makes me laugh really, really hard? And so, like, what's your humor like? What kind of style is your humor? Is it appropriate for work? So I've had people, we all have different types of humor. Can you bring all types of humor to work? Probably not. Just think about it in advance. Like, what are you going to bring to work and what is saved for more private friendships, right? What do I do the best? This is really important. Like, when I am in the office, and it doesn't have to be a technical skill. It can be, what am I doing the best? It makes me feel in flow. It makes my people happy. It makes me happy. Makes my patient happy. My team happy. What is that? Is it something I do that makes people feel a certain way? I don't know what it is, but you need to think about it, because you need to figure out how to do more of it. And this becomes part of what you get known for. So don't focus on what do I need to do better. Yes, you need to focus on what do you do best, and then just have an awareness of what's challenging for you. I always say, in coaching, it's like people come to coaches and they say, this is the things I want to get better. And I say, I get it. I totally see it. But how hard is it for us to just think about, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be overwhelmed. All it does is make you think about it. So what you should think about is how do you want to feel? How do you want your day to look? If you focus on that, you actually leave the other stuff behind. It's so much easier to think about what you want to be. Okay. So this is one of that question, what do I do best? And then what keeps me awake at night? Okay. Some thought-provoking questions. This is something I feel really passionate about. My personality, my style, I'm not a loud person. And I also think that I am persuasive. I can be persuasive. I really understand people. And I love this saying, never assume that loud is strong and quiet is weak. So whether you are an introvert, whether you're just quiet, it takes all types to be a really great leader. And remember, there's so many people that we're leading and so many types of personalities that we're dealing with. You need to bring your whole self to work and then be authentic, because it's really hard to pretend to be something you're not. And so remember this when we talk about leadership presence, okay? So one of the things that I really love, there's a book called Traction. Has anybody read that? You haven't read that? Okay, you haven't yet. This is a great book. You have? Okay, Kelly, you have. It's a great book on business and leadership. In fact, one of the things I'm going to be sending you as a bonus is from that. I got it from the website for that book, Traction. I'll talk about that in a minute. But one of the things I got from this book, it says, we always statements. So if you think about this, if you take your core values sheet that I'm going to send you, or if you took a picture of that and you created some kind of a, in office exercise room, let's talk about what our values are. Let's talk about who we are. Let's talk about who we want to be. What do we do really well? And we come up with we always statements. And I really like this so some of this can be enrolled into your employee manual. Some of you can just like create a document and just, frame it, put it on the wall or whatever. But don't you love this? For instance, we always do the right thing. We always have compassion. We always have integrity. I really love this because it makes me feel like I'm a part of a team. And the whole belonging feeling that you're part of this all this stuff builds culture, right? Having that feeling like you are, when you speak to your team, like using words like we, especially we always, it's like we get to own that. And so the more uplifting, positive leadership tenets we have, the more people can move toward these things instead of focusing on what's not working for us. Do you guys like that?
Love
That book
it.
is
This is
great.
awesome. This is fantastic.
I love it. Thank you, Jeff. Did I skip define leadership presence? Hey, do you guys, by the way, do you like my transitions? I worked on those today. I'm such a dork when it comes to tech, but define leadership presence. I want to tell you about leadership presence here. Hold on a second, where are my notes? I kind of got carried away here. It's the way people feel when they interact with you. So when you think about presence, like when you're in the presence of your mom, when you're in the presence of your best friend, there's a presence about them, right? And it's like, how that feels. You could have a presence that's on purpose with your patients and your team. Think about that. It's kind of exciting, right? Don't you love to go home and be home? It's like, oh, the food, my mom, think about how that feels. Okay, you can give this to your team, you can give this to your patients. And it's a gift, right? There's all kinds of ways that you can create a presence. So when let's say your team looks at you and you develop a relationship with them. Your presence can feel like in the way that you interact with them, the way you show up, your mannerisms, what you say, what you share, your boundaries or lack of, or whatever, can put you into some category like this. It could, your presence could feel like a friend. Okay, it could feel like a manager. Maybe your presence is like a sibling because you have so much in common, and it's like your parents have in common. This person feels like your sibling. It could feel like a parent. How many of you have ever gone into work and there is a team member, whether they're older or not, but they kind of act like your parent because they're like, I know this, you should do this. I've been doing this a long time, and this is the right way, right? So that can feel like a parent. Also, your team member, even though you're the owner, the practice leader of the practice, your presence can also feel like you are a colleague and a coworker with them also. And you know what's interesting is I talk about this to especially newer dentists who are coming onto the scene, and they're like, of course we can't blame them because it feels really good to be a friend, right? It feels great to be a friend. That's actually how we build relationships. We don't really know any other way. But guess what? If we buy a practice or we go into a practice and we are a leader and we're friends and we're going out all the time and we're just friends with them, that can bite you in the butt, right? It can bite you in the butt because it's great. It feels really good. On the other hand, being just a friend, having that relationship doesn't hold space for respect for you for a leader. Do you know what that means by holding space? Happy to, okay, so Jeff knows. Do you guys know what that means by holding space for that? What it means, I'll just, for recording's sake, what it kind of means is that, you want it to feel easy. The relationship isn't just one way. You want it to feel easy, but then there is this, there's a piece of you're not completely giving it all away, where you get to hold back a little bit of your authority so that, because you're responsible and you should, if you're in a position of responsibility, you need to do this. You can't just be a friend. Well, I in my opinion, it's a mistake to just be a friend because you're not holding that space for you as a decision maker and the responsible one. You're going to make it harder on yourself. So here's what I think it could look like as a leader: authenticity, integrity, and hold on a second, professionalism that consistently supports the framework, which includes the practice, all team members, as well as patients. Now, like I said, I think it's really, really important to be authentic, because you never want to pretend to be something you're not, because that is exhausting. So if you are going to the practice and you're looking up how to be an effective leader, and you see all these characteristics, you're like, I'm going to be that, but then that's not you. So you haven't enrolled your personality or your beliefs, core values, or anything into that. So it doesn't feel authentic. And being not authentic is exhausting. It's one of the things that leads to overwhelm and burnout when you can't be authentic, right? And integrity is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in alignment. So, think about that. What your values are, what you're thinking, and then what you're saying, and that what you're doing, it needs to be in alignment, because we're not, as humans, we're not meant to be out of alignment. We're not meant to be dishonest. It doesn't feel good. And so you have to think about, and I know you've heard about this in dentistry and in a lot of professions, burnout, overwhelm. It's pretty common. I think a lot of that is that we don't know who we are, we don't know what we want, and we're out of integrity, right? And it doesn't feel good. So it's got coming back to baseline. And of course, you want to be a professional. Obviously, you want to be a professional, and you want to support a framework. And I want to say the framework is, of course, I just talked about boundaries, but when you talk with your team, I think supports the framework that includes the practice of team members as well as patients. And I think that when you think about boundaries, like here's the policies and all this, and here's how we talk to each other. It isn't, if you say boundaries, I think psychologically we think fence, perimeter. We're not crossing that, and it feels negative. But I think when you think, what am I doing to support a framework that we respect and we're all on board with, then we're protecting something that's important to us. And I think there's a little shift there that actually is is something to consider in leadership. Because, leadership isn't that simple. It's bringing yourself in there, but it's also how you make people feel. And it's the words that you can use, just tweak things. And just the consistency of it, right? Anybody have any questions so far? Any comments? All right, thanks, guys. One of the things that I really like, I like that thought. I got it from that book Traction. It's like if you could get your vision of what you want for your practice, get it out of your head. We kind of think, oh, I want this, I want it to feel this way. Get it out of your head, get it on paper so people can see it, and then you can have something to move toward. And guess what? Your team can have something to look at and they decide if they're coming with you or not. If you don't say where you're going and what you're building, how do you know who's a good fit to build this with? And you think about how you want to feel at your work, whatever, where your life is, and you spend a lot of your time. If you want to feel really good, you want people there that are rowing in the same direction, right? So think about, and it's something that's not intuitive. Let's get this out of our head onto paper and see who buys in. Do you know that in really big companies like in Silicon Valley, there's a book, they talk about category kings anyway. I digress. One of the things that they do when they talk about their vision and mission is if whoever, and they're building these big companies with big funding and stakeholders and all this, and if whoever is not on board, out. Because one person is weight, dead weight. You know that, and you've seen this at your dental practices. One person who's rowing in the other direction that's causing resistance, and everybody has to like make up for that. Or maybe you've got a practice owner or an office manager who's like, I don't really want to have a conflict with this person, so I'm just going to let it slide and just create this rule that we're going to give it to the whole practice, but it's really one person. This person, think about having everyone rowing in the same direction, and whoever's not, they're not going to feel like they're part of things, and it can be natural. Okay. So, but just think about and have the courage to be a visionary leader. Okay. Does that make sense? I love the thought of, I don't know, Stephen Covey, be, do, and have mindset. I love this because it's going to go back. This starts with us, right? It's like who we are as a leader, who the team is. So what does this mean? Be, referring back to core values, like getting in touch again with who we are, what we want to be, who we really are every day. And, looking at what we want to create in our life. So what do we need to be that person. We need to be that person first. You can't be a different type of person and go, oh, but I want that. And then we're like, oh, that's hard. And it keeps on not working. It's because it's not in flow. Okay. So you have to be who you need to be so you can have what you want. Okay. And then the next step is do what it takes, do the action that it takes to achieve your goals. Okay. When you are this person, you work on being this person, which is the core, then you do the action, then you can have the results and achieve your goals. I really like that. I really love when I see quotes. I like the least number of words because it hits home with me, right? Don't you like that? Don't you like it when you're like, oh, just make it a little shorter. You want to make it more powerful, make it more shorter and concise, right? So I'm geeking out on this. Capacity. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. I just threw this in there last minute. I want to talk to you about something about capacity. This is so important when you're building something out and important with leadership. And again, this goes back to like, there's so many leadership books and programs that you can take, and it's like, be this, do this, but you have to it has to be you too, right? Then you're looking at this list, and you're like, okay, I'm going for this. I want a $2 million practice. I'm just throwing some numbers. I just want a $2 million practice. I want, I want to have 6 weeks off a year. I want, you have all this list of what you want. I want a vacation here. I want all the things. You lay it out. Like I said, put your vision out, lay it out. Your vision board. I want this. Now, you go back and you look at your life and you're like, okay, so what am I doing to have this? So maybe you have a big financial goal and you're like, okay, guys, guess what? This is our big goal. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this marketing, and here's our financial goals, and we're going to meet this, and I'm going to give you some bonuses, and we're going to hustle, and we're going to meet these goals. Guess what? If you don't have the capacity to do the work and to hold space within yourself and your family for what you're trying to do, it is not going to feel good and you will burn out. You have to also think about, thank you, Jeff. I was like, just like, yeah, this is Jeff's specialty. You have to have the capacity for what you're asking for in your life, right? Let me give you an analogy that's not about dentistry. If you've been single for a long time and you're like, you know what, I got locked down. I never married because I never found the right person. So I'm just going to wait. And then so you got your routine, you're really fit. And you got your life on lockdown, right? I go to Italy in the spring and, you got it all laid out. Here comes Mr. and Mrs. Right. You're like, wow, I always wanted this soulmate in my life. This soulmate comes in and you're like, oh my gosh, this is great. And she or he goes, okay, well, I like to go to California to see my kids on this time, or like, and you're like, wait, because you haven't built the capacity for what you think you want. You have to think about that too. You have to look at your life holistically. Am I building capacity for what I want? But you have to first know what you want, okay? And what I'm saying with this leadership stuff, I know it maybe feels like I'm going sideways, but I'm talking about personal leadership too. This is a big part of leadership presence, and everything. It starts with self-leadership, personal leadership. You have to know what it is that you want so that you can build it, and then have the capacity to be the receiving. Because guess what? If it isn't in alignment, it's not going to happen. And if it happens, it's going to be short-lived because you're going to say, this is not going to work. Okay. So this is really, really important. And I think it's something that isn't talked about enough, is capacity. Actually, I wasn't going to go into this, but I'll have you look at this real quick. These are the vision statements for Netflix, Amazon, and the ADA. So if you're interested in building a vision for your practice, think about less words, like what you want, where you're going, and like look at it bigger, and then look at it bigger and then condense it smaller. That's a vision. That's not a mission statement, but a vision. Okay. Look at the ADA, empowering the dental profession to achieve optimal health for all. Okay. Build your leadership culture. Okay, so we talked about personal leadership. We talked about your leadership presence. What does that mean? I really believe that you can't build a culture in your practice without building that leadership culture. It has to start with you, because it can't be some random thing that you just get out of a book somewhere. It has to be focused on you. So there's some foundational tenets to building this. Think about this. The culture is, we talked about everybody rowing in the same direction at the same time. We want that to happen when you're not there. Okay. It can't just happen when you're managing, because then you'd be a manager, but you're a leader. And so building a culture and having a great culture is when people are in the same page, when they're rowing in the same boat, going the same place at the same time, even when you're not there. Foundational tenets: relationship you have with your team. Do they trust you? Do they feel empowered by you? We know time and time again what team members really want from us is to feel empowered. We want them to feel empowered. Sometimes it looks like it's all about the money, but it isn't all about the money. We want purpose. We want to feel like it's a safe place. We want the relationships, and we want to feel empowered. We want to feel proud of where we work. Second, the relationship they have with each other. How many times when you think about this, and now I'm talking about retention strategies here and building that culture that people belong and want to be there. You want to foster the relationship they have with each other because they feel like they belong together, and that's going to make them want to work together. And if your practice is the place, why would they even consider working anywhere else? And why would they want to build whatever you're building all together because they belong there, right? Is communication open and encouraged and role modeled by you? Are you consistent? Have you built in safety in your practice? Emotional safety? Is there confidence? Are you holding confidence when people come to you? Are you consistent? What about financial safety? Are you communicating? Is there financial safety in your practice too? These are all really foundational. Now, when you have these pieces, then you can build out the culture with the framework. Now, some people say, they start with the framework going, okay, well, first thing we need is an employee manual, and then with the policies and all these things that we do. But I think it's the other way around, because then when you have the buy-in and the relationships, now you build out this, and you've got you've got team members buying in and helping you create the policies that they buy into. Okay, so the framework. Employee manual, financial treatment policies, team huddles, trainings, retreats, timeliness. What is the culture of being on time in your practice? Respect for all team members, including emotional safety. What does that look like professionally? And how do you make everybody feel safe? And then respect for your professional roles. I think that these are all, I'm not a practice consultant. I am a coach. Okay, so I work with people on their personal leadership and on their leadership presence and style outside. But so this is more the framework. But what I will say about this, it's really important. And when we talked about framework, and we talked about when you're talking to your team, not really talking so much about boundaries, because it feels like an outside. This is what you're protecting. You're protecting, the framework. You're protecting the policies. And so when you speak to your team about these things, we're protecting the team huddle. What does that mean? We're protecting it by we're showing up on time. We're doing it regularly. We have a format. We're protecting it. We're protecting the timeliness policies we have. We're protecting the respect and for our roles and team members. And that means that we're consistent. And that means that there isn't somebody getting away with murder. Everybody else is towing the line, because I'll tell you, the main reason that, and we see in the news that people, they just want more money. They're moving. The main reason that people quit is because of poor management and leadership. In my personal opinion, I think it has to do with inconsistency. You got one person who's not towing the line and they're getting away with it. It causes resentment and a whole bunch of issues. Okay. So what I would say is, yeah, being a visionary leader, and it's all wonderful. It isn't always easy, but you can make it more, you can make it flow by being yourself, just being by yourself, and then protecting the framework. And I would love to invite you to some questions. Thank you for your time.
That's fantastic, Lani. Thank you. Great presentation. Yes, let's open up the floor for questions. If you have a question, you can just go ahead and raise your hand or unmute yourself and open up the door for some questions, because what a great amount of time and effort that you put into that. So thank you for a great presentation. Very, very valuable. Spoke really, really well on leadership. A lot of things that I'm taking away out of that too. So thank you.
No, thank you. And I know that there's some practice owners in the room, and you know, do you guys, if you don't have any questions right now, I have some talking points, you know, some questions that have come up. Does anybody have any comments, or they want any clarification on something that I said? You know, we talked about self-identity, leadership, presence, and culture.
I
Again,
think one of the questions that I think would be great to expound upon would be, what do you think is the most important way to start to create such a positive and successful culture inside of a practice?
You know what? It's interesting. I think that's a great question. And again, I think it comes back to the relationship that that you have. Yeah, I'll just say as you as a practice owner, for say, because when we talked about that slide, we're talking about who your professional presence, who are you to your team? Are you a friend? You know, are you the manager? Are you the parent? Like, what is that? Okay. I think that you need to think about who you want to be first. And like in my estimation and experience, I think it's great to be friendly, but there needs to be that space held for respect and, you know, and that authority and the responsibility of decision making and what that brings. When you have that, believe it or not, some people think, oh, I just want to be friendly, I'm going to make everybody like me. That's not always going to be helpful, and that's actually a trap. Okay, so in order to build something out, you have to have respect and safety first. You have respect and safety, everyone feels safe. Now you guys start rowing in the right direction, and then you start building, what do we want? But then you have to build that strong, safe boat that everybody's in, that everybody feels safe, that nobody's going to get away with murder, nobody's going to be bullied, right? That I think that's where to start, and then start building out values and what do we want, where we're going, and getting everybody to buy in from there. It's a great question. What do you think
Awesome.
about that, Jeff?
I think that's fantastic. And I couldn't agree more. I loved how you tied in vision with things. I'm a firm believer in having a vision, and a vision that's bigger than yourself, because that's something that others can get enrolled into. And just how you brought about the beauty of having people want to feel like they're a part of something in a community. And when
Yeah.
we have a vision that pulls everybody together inside of the practice, that's beyond me at all. It's really the vision for the practice. That's what's exciting. And I think you tied that together so well. And I loved your slide with the be, do, have, because that's exactly the opposite of the ways that we were taught in dental school and really in life, because everything that we're taught is do more so you can have more, so you can be significant, right? And
Oh, wow, it's
or
true.
something like that, of that nature.
Huh.
And this is so great to flip the script on that and like be like, I'm already enough, and so being
Yeah.
that at the beginning, that flows through. I love that slide on there because it's such a great reminder on, look, your birth is your worth. You are enough from the beginning. You're worthy to start with. So I love that slide. It was such a great, great, solid slide. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that comment. Again, I want to remind everyone that I love that slide about also remember that um, quiet can also be strong. Can't remember exactly what that said, but that's so important. And it's okay. It's 100% okay as I'm giving you this information and stuff. If you don't know, then just say, you know what, I'm gonna think about that. Think about creating this space for yourself all the time to make the right decisions. You do not need to feel pressured to like know the answer right then or make a decision. Most of the time, you don't need to make an on-fly decision unless it's a treatment decision, right? If it is a personnel issue, if it's a policy issue, maybe you don't need to know right then. You can come back to it. That's thoughtful leadership. And that shows that you are taking everything, and especially when you're talking about team members and conflict and stuff, don't make on the fly decisions. Be thoughtful about it. And then own your power, go back to it and say, you know, I thought about it. And I think this is what we're going to do. And then go back to the values of the practice and the we always statements, and see if you're in alignment with that, with decisions that you're making need to be in alignment. This is why I gave you some of those tenets so that you understand that what you're building and the decisions that you make can be referenced to what you've built as what the pillars of people believe is your practice culture. And that's going to help you. So don't jump to the end. Let's just make as much money as possible. I mean, let's be, and who are we? Right? It really is going to help, and always create the space for yourself.
I dropped in the chat too. If you want to reach out to Lani, there is her Instagram handle there, a wave of women _dentistry, as well as if you want to reach out to her in an email, join us at waveofwomen.com. So that's a couple ways that you can contact Lani too. I just want to make sure that everybody got that beforehand. And by no means do I want to shut off questions and answers. This is fantastic. So if you guys have questions, please fire away.
I don't know if you can hear me or see me.
I can see you, hear you.
Oh, thanks. Hi, Lani. I'm sorry.
Hi.
I'm in between driving here, trying to cook at the same time that I listen to you. So, so you know my journey. So I'm not gonna go there. But now that I'm not an owner of a practice, and I wanted to move forward with other things in my life, like speaking and becoming an expert, whenever. How do you apply all this that you just went through to maybe somebody like me, or somebody that is in a transition like this?
Yeah, so much of it applies to you. I mean, of course, I think you should go back and look at your values again. I'm going to send you guys these handouts, this values, and I'm going to send you this handout on traction that is a vision traction organizer for your vision and your goals. And so that's going to help you also, Wilma, because that can also be personal goals. A lot of this can just be, transition into your personal life. For instance, when we talked about a framework, what's a framework that could be your life? What kind of lifestyle do you want? What are you protecting? What kind of life what are you protecting? You need to have, I guess you could use the word boundaries. You could, have boundaries, protect the life that you're creating. But then think about what you're trying to create. And then you think about, it's really important to know who you are, obviously, go back and remember that you have evolved, and give yourself permission to do this experience, do this for yourself every few years, because we are constantly evolving. If we're reading books, watching shows, networking, meeting other awesome people, we're evolving. So you should be going back and checking in and see who you have become. So I would recommend going back and then thinking about those questions about, rediscovering who you are right now. Because I know Wilma, I know you've changed a lot.
Oh, yes.
Right. And I think that basically, don't be afraid to go back and do it all that work, and see who you are now, so that you can decide what you want that do have. Right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
I'd love to add something there. And I love what you said about going back, because that's a huge thing that I believe in. Is I found my core values from back in the day when we were doing some strategic planning with a dental office where I was an associate. And it's really funny to look at the core values that I had then. It was integrity and loyalty and all these things that were keeping me stuck, unhappy in a career. And I was a terrible leader because I felt awful. And it's funny to look at what my core values are today when I give myself permission. It's things like connection and fun. And so, it's definitely worthwhile to see that that can change. And when you change, you go back and it's going to be different. So it's very worthwhile.
Thank you for sharing that. I know you have been on a massive entrepreneurial journey, and you're definitely a role model for a lot of dentists and people in dentistry, and I really appreciate you.
Thank-
One thing I will add, and I know that Jeff will, he'll agree with me on this. When you're doing the work to rediscover who you are, remember that you need to slow down to figure it out. So even though I've given you tools and things to do, I promise you, you're not going to find all the answers in the doing. You have to create the quiet in order to get the answers, which is coming in. So there is the doing energy, and then there's the receiving energy. And if you're doing, I promise you, you're not going to be able to receive all the information that you're getting, if that makes any sense.
It
So
does.
play
And
at a quiet time, like create that time for yourself.
And you know what I would say too, Lani, is because I've been stuck. So it's like, I would say the opposite as well, is like if you're being and planning and trying to have the perfect map laid out ahead of you without actually getting into any action and look, the actions where we
Yes.
learn who we are. So it's like, if we could find the perfect balance, right?
Balance. Yes, I love what you said. I want to echo that, and I don't know if you guys will understand this energy when I said, like the doing energy and the receiving energy, that's basically the masculine and the feminine. You need to balance that.
Yeah.
A lot of times we're in one way or the other, and it feels really bad because when if we're in too much the feminine, we're just like, I'm just going to pass, I'm just going to coast. Guess what? Nothing's happening for you. It doesn't feel good because you're just like, I'm just going to wait. Right. And so, but then if you're in the masculine, you're just like, do, and then you're out of balance. You're not receiving. You don't even know what capacity is. Then now you're burned out. So you have to have balance. You're right. Thank you for bringing that up.
And
Go ahead, Laura.
I raised my hand because I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say to people who are not practice owners? Like, how do they go about creating this kind of leadership when they don't fully have that same level of autonomy and power?
I would say I work with a lot of associate dentists and people who are not practice owners as well. And they always have a team that they're working with. So you can create that microculture with your team of assistants and, and that relationship with the rapport you have with your team that you're working closely with. So there is opportunity to build that culture right there when you're not the decision maker for the whole practice. And of course, the self-leadership. A lot of that, but then the leadership presence, that all applies to you too. That's a great question. It does apply to everyone at different levels because you get to create a microclimate that you get to think about. Do you like to come to work? And what does this look like? Are we speaking the same language? Are we rowing in the same boat? Like what's going on here? All the awareness tools can apply just at a level with your small team.
And
Awesome.
I think your leadership too, as a parent as well. I mean,
Yes.
if those of us who have kids, I mean, our kids are being bombarded every day on this with telling them what to think and all these things. And so our leadership at home has to be so strong in order to look at combating kind of what's being fed out there for our kiddos too, especially.
Absolutely. Yes, I think bringing that up, that's a very good point too.
Kelly, you had a question?
Get unmuted here. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to say thank you, and I really enjoyed your program, Lani. So I have actually a dental hygiene career. I practiced for about 25 years, and then in tandem, so I'm kind of in your world too. So it was great to hear what you had to say today. So I work in executive presence, personal brand coaching, consulting, and trainings.
Okay.
Kind of
Awesome.
parallel. Yeah, so I really love, and just, some feedback that I enjoyed where you're talking about defining your leadership presence, where you think about how it might need to shift or change depending on really the role that you're in, where you might not, if you're wanting to really lead your people, that you can't be their friend, in a sense, or how I teach it is kind of like you need to think about what hat you have on, the hats that you wear in your life, and how you should shape your presence to support that. So
Yeah, I love that. Yes, that's another way of looking at it. Absolutely. And I know that when I say things like, you can't just be their friend, that's kind of an unpopular decision. Because I've heard people say, well, I'm great friends with everybody in my office. And I'm thinking, when is that, what, that, there's no way that that didn't cause problems at some point. There's just no way, just because you've,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. You
just-
got to look at it. I mean, there's different levels of friendship, I guess, too. So,
Yes, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate your comment.
Yeah. And then yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have I met you at DO conference? You look familiar.
I'm attending this year. I'm newer to do. So, I'm here because I met Laura at Weevolution with DSI. So we've
Okay.
met at a couple conferences there. So
Awesome.
yeah, so I'll be at you in a few weeks. So we'll look forward
Great.
to that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I also wanted to comment the Traction book. Yes, if you guys have not read that book, I've been in some book clubs with it and read the book. It's been a little while. I should go back and read it. Have a couple of business friends locally. I'm Michigan based, and they are EOS providers, so they teach the whole Traction system. And yeah, as a business owner, it's a great book. So
It is.
I would encourage you to read it.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome.
guys.
Any other questions from everybody? Anybody? That is fantastic. I have a question. If anybody's willing to share, I would love to know, like, what is the one biggest thing that you're going to take away from Lani's presentation tonight and apply in your life? Because it doesn't have to be in your practice, or could just be in your life.
I'll start.
Go ahead, Laura.
It doesn't necessarily apply to me, but I love the thing about how, and again, I don't remember the exact words, Lonnie, but the be, do, have, but also the thing I really liked was that being quiet doesn't mean that you're weak.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
so even if I might be loud or I might talk a lot or whatever, there are times where if I'm quiet, because there are times when I'm quiet and I want to be that I can still be strong in those moments and maybe even stronger in those moments.
Yeah, I'm trying to look that up right now. It's never assume that loud is strong and quiet is weak. Yeah, thank you.
Great.
Appreciate that.
Anybody else have anything that they want to share as far as a takeaway or application? If not, I'll share. For one that I loved is just because I am a firm believer in this with the I am statements, and I think that they are so powerful because the words that follow those are the identities that we live into. And we will absolutely live into the identity that we set ourselves out to be. So whatever it comes after I am is where we will end up.
Love that.
About people that say, "Oh, I'm a smoker." Well, you'll continue to always be a smoker, or if you said up until now I was a smoker, but now going forward, then this. I think I still write out in my old school journal, I still write out almost daily I am statements, like even little ones, like I am a great father, I'm an amazing husband, I am, because it's powerful reinventing yourself. As Laura was saying too, you come to different seasons in your life. And so there's different things that we need to speak into our existence too.
I love what you just said. I love that too. I think that your brain, when you speak into the negative, saying, I don't smoke anymore, I don't, whatever, it doesn't really know. And the universe you don't really know. So like speaking into the positive about who you're becoming is so much more powerful, and it just sticks in your head. And then to say it and write it down. I mean, that's really owning it, right? So it definitely is a powerful tool to move us forward.
I think that there's something, Lani, with like the reticular activator doesn't really hear a negative. I think that if I remember right. So when you're like, I'm not this, your brain really hears, I am this. If it's negative, it's like, that's horrible.
Yes.
I'll tell you something. So like, I'm obsessed with my dog always. And, there was a time when my past dog, I would say to her, like, don't get old, don't get old. And then I was like, wait, this is not the right message I'm giving her. And I changed it to say, stay young, stay young. So there's an example of how you can flip it around.
Perfect.
I love it.
I love
Are you
it.
talking about Nola?
No, this is our dog before Nola. Now with Nola, I know to tell her to stay young
Stay
because
young.
I learned with Ruby, who's gone.
It's a good life lesson.
Yeah.
He wants our dogs to get old.
Yes, they're such beautiful parts of our lives. Thank you guys so very much for your time and attention tonight. And thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys showing up and committing the time. Lani, thank you for an amazing presentation and really putting yourself out there with this and really giving us some great things to take away. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, and I loved being in the room with you guys. I got as much out of here as maybe you guys got too, because I really enjoyed this energy of all the positivity. So thank you.
Awesome. And you can see over there on the left-hand side of the screen, there's ways to reach Lani. And then it's also in the chat. I'll leave that up for just another couple minutes too, that if anybody wants to be able to get in touch with her, that's a fantastic way. And then I believe, Lani, you're going to take the individuals' names and emails and you'll email those documents.
Yeah, I'm gonna be sending you guys a couple of handouts so that you'll have my email at hand. You can respond. I'm gonna be sending you the vision traction organizer and the your personal code. So you can take this and reacquaint yourself again with your core values.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And check, stay tuned in with the IADLC to check out what else is coming up. We're going to have some more incredible speakers here and covering a broad range of topics. Really, the biggest thing is how can we have great mental health and awareness and really have a life that works? And at the same time, incorporate success. I heard one of the things I think success is always one of those things that is so different for everybody. But the one thing that I can look at from a success standpoint is saying, I want to have the life created that I'm happy to wake up to. If I have the life created that I'm happy to wake up to, that to me is successful. And whatever that looks like for you, I wish that all of that for you too. And so thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Right. Thank you so much, you guys. We'll see you. We'll see you next time.
Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.